I am Tom from Just One Pack, and this is AC on the Short Alpha Clash podcast, where I talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. And today I want to talk about sort of the Progenitors gambit and sort of a little around it. So let me explain that. So this weekend we had the Progenitors gambit. I did not get to see the finals, sadly, because time zones, and I had to go to work. But what I did do was watch a few of the other games. Now, one of the things that struck me, and there's a specific game I want to dig into that made me think, is that whenever a Krung player played, whenever Krung was the contender, games seemed to drag on a bit, which is sort of odd in a game that leans towards a more aggro style, right? I mean, everything has haste, everything can attack at the same time. You're not waiting a turn, slowing down game and stuff. So so that was kind of weird. But there was this one, I think it was the semi-finals, where two Krung players met up in a 48, 47, something like that, minute long single match, not moving their life totals at all. I mean, they were never attacking, never blocking, right? For 45 minutes, nothing happened other than playing a resource and setting a trap, which is an ambush card, of course. That is wild. That I don't think that was supposed to happen, and made me think. When we can get matches, fair enough, every now and then we all sit in a game where the board state gets huge, right? And we don't really want to attack because we don't want to be the one destroying our own board state, because we can't really see the upper hand in attacking, or we'd much rather be defending, getting some control in that. We all been there. At some point, someone has to attack. And then everything just explodes, right? Not so here. In fact, that game ended with one of them decking out, one of the players decking out, right? There were 18 resources, 19 resources, something like that, and 10 traps or ambush cards, the accessory side. So half of the deck was in resources and in ambush deck. Oh, and by the way, not a single card in their Oblivion. Not a single card. Because no one attacked, because no one did anything. The only time that there were cards in the Oblivion, it was when someone discarded a Wristlack. But that was only short-lived, because you play Wristlack from discard, right? So that was a really odd way. That was a really odd game, and they end up with them, as I said, one decking out, and both of them having loads of resources and loads of traps set, and 4 Wristlacks out. Funny enough, and nothing else, right? So that made me think of how, if I were Rising Empire Studios, how would I fix this? Well, important to note, maybe. I think if I'm going to fix it, I'm going to have to sort of solve the problem, or identify the problem. I think there were 2 things that played into this. Again, this is my opinion, so I might be horrible wrong, and I'm not a game designer. The game designers on Alpha Clash are way smarter than me. Right, so but I have a podcast, so I get to speculate, right? So what I see as the problem is two main things, right? One is an indirect, and that is that what was special about this? So Krung has always been doing quite well, right? He's never been a bad contender. Um, he really had some good placements before, and he's played quite fairly well, right? But he's been beaten. Now, I have not checked the data who has beaten Krung players before, but I know who we expected to see in the top four, top eight, and hardly did. So I say hardly did because I have not seen any of the material we usually get from from big tournaments like the top eight or the top fours, right? But as far as I understand, the top four were all Krung, and there were two deaths in top eight. I don't know what the last two were, but what we would have expected was to see Genesis and Alphasta in at least in top eight, maybe even in the top four, right? Maybe we actually thought they would either one of them would win. That was why we nerfed Alphasta, right? Or he was nerfed, was to not make him so powerful that he would just completely trample everyone out, right? So that being said, none of them were there, and I think that is due to the location card. So the location card is always was this somewhere in Des Moines and was always in place, and it had two effects that, to my eyes, were specifically designed to slow down or hinder Genesis and Alphasta in gaining too much weight, right? Now the cool part about this is that is an easy fix. Next time there is a tournament with a location card, it is going to be a different location card. That was sort of the promise made about location cards, that would change from location to location. I know that the location card for Quezon City next weekend is the same functionally, so that will be really interesting to see how Des Moines is going to change Quezon City. But after that, they can just change the location cards, right? That being said, having the location card in place, in my view, sort of, well, I don't know if it actually hindered Genesis and Alphasta in being powerful, but it did turn players away from those contenders without having seen any statistics on that. But the top players did not play that, right? So that's an easy fix, and one of the things I think would change this four top tier Krung thing, because Alphast and Genesis would contend with those and might have beaten one or two, right? So I'm not saying Krung would not get to top four. I'm just saying it wouldn't only be Krung, I think. The other thing is, when I looked at that board state, I was sort of going through my mind, what card would I draw to impact that, right? And the board state of the semi-finals, right? How would I impact that? Well, one of the things that I would do to impact that was to remove some of the traps, right? So whenever you set a trap or an ambush card, which is the same thing in this context, it is a threat to the opponent, right? Or to your opponent. So having loads of those out means that you can, together with loads of resources, that means that you can actually, you have a reaction to everything, right? Something whatever I play is not going to play out the way I think it would. There's going to be some back and forth around it, right? Now, I could easily have seen that being an escalating thing where someone was doing something, playing a card, and that made a go come in being played, right? And that triggered another. You sort of have cascading effect. But nobody wants to fill the board either. Well, maybe in that match, but what you can do with clash cards is that you can remove pretty much everything. Not everything, but pretty much everything with a Here Comes the Boom, right? So the Here Comes the Boom gives 5 damage to anything, right? And 5 damage in Alpha Clash is pretty much a board wipe, but it's only a board wipe for Clash cards. It doesn't remove traps or accessories. Now, you can remove accessories, and as far as I understand it, when a trap is set or an ambush card is set, it is, by definition, an accessory, since it is in the accessory zone. It's played to the accessory zone. So anything that can remove an accessory could remove a trap or an ambush card, as long as it's face down, right? The only thing is that you can only remove one at a time. You can't remove more than one. Now, I also understand that if you want to leave the door open for traps, actual traps, to be a viable option at some point too, and you want ambush not to be nerfed completely, you cannot make a Here Comes the Boom for traps. You should not make one for accessories general, because that would completely, all the alpha hunters would just be wiped off the board, right? But you can make something that deals with more than one trap at a time, or more than one trap or face down card in your accessory zone, not accessories as such, because that would be devastating, right? So, well, I think that's the second option. One, change the location, and second thing that could fix, quote unquote, this situation where the game stalled and the accessory zones just kept growing. What if there were a way to deal with more than one accessory at a time? Something like it could be an action, right? Accessories should be a little bit hard to get rid of than clash cards because they're not a part of the clash as such. But something that could deal, maybe could spring an action that could spring half of the traps, right? Rounded down. So if there's only one, there's no point in playing it. But if there are 2, you get rid of 1. If there's 4, you get rid of 2, right? So you sort of interact with more of them, so to keep something like this from running away. Now, having an action to do that means that you need to include it. It also could be a paid activated ability. There are loads of ways to put it in that could make sense. But I think that would, if not the threat of that being out there, then the possibility to include it in a meta like the one we saw might be a really important way to nerf something. And you could even have it be the opponent that chooses what goes away and what doesn't go away, right? So letting your opponent having a bit of control of what gets removed. What's really interesting about that is that also tells you what are the valuable cards, and then you can start single point removing them, right? So, anywho, I think that might fix some of the issues we saw. Anyway, that was my 2 takeaways from the Progenitors Gambit. Interestingly enough, I want to see the finals, but I hope it's not an hour of Krung exchanging traps, right? Because that would be horrible. But let's see what turns out. Hopefully, I'll get to watch it one of these days soon. Anyway, that was it from me. I am at work, so I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.